Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Lena.
Thank you for joining me tonight to discuss the topic of job loss. A lot of people have been impacted, especially during the pandemic. So we just want to come out here tonight and just provide some tips on how to help those who may have suffered from a job loss to maneuver through that loss, and to give them tips on trying to locate a new position or find a new role. So my name is Lena Lassiter. For those of you who don't know me, I am an advanced grief recovery method specialist. I'm a senior leader in corporate, and I am the founder and president of Forever Healed. And I will let Kevin introduce himself.
And I'm Kevin Lassiter. I'm actually the treasurer for Forever Healed. And I'm also in corporate America. I work for USI Insurance Services in a myriad of different types of roles. One of the main roles is I manage a team, and I actually assist with environmental law issues that impact our clients. So, and I've been in corporate America for about 25 years or so.
Thank you. Hi, Wendy. Thank you for joining us. So you guys know what to do. Let us know that you are with us, you are watching. You know, we love it to be interactive. So please feel free to post your questions at any time, and we'll make sure that we address those. So again, Lena Lassiter, Kevin Lassiter here with Forever Healed. We have a nonprofit, and we aim to help those with broken hearts to end their pain and to reclaim their lives forever. And this is done several different ways. We offer grief recovery classes licensed by the Grief Recovery Method Institute. We also offer one-to-one and group classes. And we also educate corporate America on the hidden costs of grief in the workplace. We do lunch and learn sessions, we do seminars, and we have our own training program. So thank you for being here tonight. I think the thing that we are probably most proud of is our recent partnership with the Richmond Police Department, their homicide support group. So we offer our services to families who have lost loved ones as a result of homicide. So we participate in monthly fellowships and training sessions with that group as well. So glad to be here tonight. Let me say hello to a few folks. Hi, Miss Pat. Good evening. Good evening, Peggy. Yes, I would love to catch up with you soon. Thank you so much for always supporting. I love you so much. Hey, Tanya. Thank you. Thank you. Always supporting. I appreciate you guys. So tonight we're going to be talking about job loss. So one of the worst or best things that can happen from a career perspective is to lose your job. It can be emotional and traumatic to lose your job. Remember that grief is a change or end in a familiar pattern or behavior. So you will grieve the loss of a job. So I was laid off in 2008 after suffering major losses in my life. So it has been my personal mission to educate employers and leaders and those who are grieving on the grief growth process and to provide resources. So after being laid off, I have to say I took the time to heal and to seek employment that was actually better suited for my skill sets. As a matter of fact, being laid off is where and when my leadership abilities were actually heightened. So after being laid off, you may feel shocked, you may feel angry, you may feel anxious about your finances. You may have a period of feeling like even giving up. You may grieve it if you have enjoyed that particular loss. So I just want you to understand that, what you are feeling, again, it's a natural reaction to a loss. Thanks, Wendy. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Dawn. Thank you for always supporting. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So we want to provide some really quick tips tonight, guys. So the first tip we want to talk about is give yourself time to grieve. Give yourself time to grieve, right? Allow yourself the time and the space to feel and process what was lost. Also, take the time to reflect on a new direction. Kevin was talking about this earlier, and I'll let him jump in on this one because, we tend to get caught up in what was lost versus the opportunities. So, Kevin, you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, exactly. So, having been in corporate America for as long as I've been in, in corporate America, having a job loss is a fact of life. It is going to happen at some point during your career. Many people face it, but the one thing that I've noticed is when a loss occurs, when you've lost a job, that really is an opportunity for you to understand other things that you can do in your life. It's interesting because, in working with HR and other managers, when they have made a decision that they're going to lay off somebody, they really look at it in a few ways. They look at it in one way of saying, wow, you know what? We may be losing someone, but we're trying, of course, to make the business better. But we're also allowing that person an opportunity to grow. A lot of times when you have somebody in a job and they may not like the job, you're not really doing anybody any favors by keeping them in that position. So it is often an opportunity for them to do something different. It's very interesting that I was managing a team a few years ago, and I had to lay off 5 people. And it was very difficult to have to do that. But it was interesting to watch their growth, to watch them decide on what their future was going to be. And each one of them ended up finding better positions. Now, it's not to say that they didn't like the jobs that they were doing, but they actually ended up in a much better place. So it's not always where it is a situation where you're losing something, and it may feel that way initially, but it's also an opportunity for growth and for you to go into a new direction.
Yeah. I want to put this comment up because I thought this was really good. So Wendy said that she felt worthless when she lost her job, and she didn't realize the significance and the sense of self-worth that came with having a place to go daily. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because again,
exactly.
Wendy.
It's that change.
That change. Yeah. Right. That familiar pattern, right,
Mm-hmm.
is broken. So we're
Right.
used to getting up every day, going to work, doing our job, and sometimes we can do it with our eyes closed, right? And then when you lose that, and especially when you put everything into it, like I see people that put so much into that role or that particular career that they kind of lose themselves, in it, if that makes sense. The second thing that we need to do is to research available benefits. And what I mean by that is, of course, you want to file for unemployment. You want to check on health insurance options. You want to make sure you understand what happens with your 401k plan. What happens with that money, rolling it over. So you may need to talk to a financial advisor, if needed. So make sure you research available benefits. So Peggy says she agree. Yes, ma'am. And then a question for you, Kevin. Do you still are you still in contact with them, the associates that you had to lay off?
Yeah, actually I am, through LinkedIn, and also we have each other's phone numbers, so I have a good idea as far as what they're doing with their lives at this point. But it's very interesting as you watch them get into different positions, and actually in positions of more leadership, more control over their careers, and also kind of venturing out into other areas that they didn't realize where they had strengths. And it was interesting because a lot of times I was watching them and I could see different things just in working with them every day, and understanding that I wanted to take them in a different direction, but they were somewhat limited in the roles that they had in working for me. So watching them expand in their growth as human beings, as well as just in their general lives, has been great for me to see that. But it really was a situation where that door opened up, that they didn't think that door was going to be there for them, right?
Right.
They didn't realize that, but then they figured out, wow, you know what? There's a lot more that I have to offer. There's a lot more that's in store for me, and without being sort of pushed out, they may never not have realized that. So
Yeah.
you can always look at it as an opportunity, and they definitely have looked at it as an opportunity.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you guys for the questions. Keep them pouring in. We're gonna answer.
Mhm.
So the third tip that I want to give you tonight is create a plan in finding a new position. Create a plan in finding your new position. So this could include updating your resume. Make sure that your LinkedIn profile is active. And make sure that you share on LinkedIn that you are actively seeking employment. And then connect with your network. That is so important. So ask your connects to share leads that they may have. And then please, please, pretty please, clean up your social media pages. So, don't have, negative posts out there about your past employers. Just make sure that it's professional. And again, remember, this is a permanent record of who you are. Once it's out there, it's out there. So make sure that you clean up your social media pages. Anything to add there, Kevin? Before we go to
No,
four?
I just think that it's extremely important that whatever you do have out there on the internet, that you take control of that and be mindful of what's out there, because you of course never know who's looking, and you never know what's going to follow you. So yeah, it is really great to make certain that you clean that information up, and you want to put yourself out there in the most positive light as possible, nothing negative. Even if you have a situation where you may not have had a good split from your employer, but it's very important not to say anything negative, because a new employer is going to look at that and say, well, you're going to do the same thing to us at some point if that relationship is ever terminated. So it's always good just to be mindful of what's out there, and to make certain, as Lena said, to make sure you clean that up.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Jackie. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Jackie is also an advanced grief recovery method specialist. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Jackie. And if you have additional tips, make sure you post them out here in our comments as well. Thank you for being here tonight. Yes, she said, yes, Pat, clean up that social media page, because you don't know who's watching. Yes, and it does follow you. And once it's out there, it's out there. So we have to be very mindful of that. All right, so we're going to recap real quick before we hit our last couple of points. So number one, remember, give yourself time to grieve, okay? Research available benefits. Research available benefits. So you're going to file for unemployment. You're going to check your health insurance options. You're going to make sure you understand what happens with your 401k, right? You're going to talk to a financial advisor if you need to. Number three, you're going to create a plan in finding a new position. So updating your resume, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is active, that you share on LinkedIn, that you are actively seeking employment. Connect with your network. It's so important. And then number four, this is something that I don't think we do a lot of, but find out what you are worth. What's your value? What do you have to bring to the table? So many people will tell me, Lena, I don't know what to put when they ask me for a salary range. You have to understand that we all have transferable skills. Look over your resume and pull out your transferable skills. You can also use salary reports. And it's a website, you guys, called payscale.com. Payscale.com. And it will help you negotiate your salary. So you can kind of put in your experience, the role that you're looking for, and it will compare salaries across, states. So make sure that you understand your value, what you bring to the table. Let's see, we have a few more comments. Always mindful of what I'm posting, because I know the powers that be are watching. That's right. Kevin, is it legal for them to use your social page against you?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So you're putting that information out there. So what they do is they make a decision as to whether or not they want to offer you anything, right? So that's the first thing when you're looking for a new employer. It's their right. I mean, if it's something that's available that they can access, yeah, I mean, they can basically use it any way they want. The thing is that you want to make certain that there's nothing out there that's harmful to you in any way, or any illegal activity or anything like that. I mean, yeah, you never know how somebody's going to use that information, but generally they have the right. And when I'm talking about a pre-employment situation, they have a right to look at it and make a decision as to whether or not they want to hire you. Now, once they've hired you, that's a whole different thing. You have to basically look at it from a standpoint of what's out there and whatever their own um, procedures are internally in terms of their policies. And their policies may be, you can't have anything out there that's negative. You can't have anything out there that's going to make the organization look bad. Of course, you hear a lot about people who get laid off and get fired from their jobs because of something negative that they put out there in social media. So you take that risk. If you put something out there in terms of how that employer is going to view that, and whether or not that's going to be something they may use against you in some way in terms of your continued employment. So you always just have to be mindful of whatever's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and they can use that, Tanya. When we have done that,
Mhm.
my employer has done that as well. So they
Mhm.
have, social media posts, and they have terminated because they don't want to be connected with that negativity. And especially if you post that you work for XYZ company, and then you're, posting the negative, comments, they don't want to be necessarily associated with that. All right, so understand your value by finding out what you're worth. Thanks, Wendy, for posting that for me, payscale.com. And then the fifth tip, mock interviews. Mock interviews. Practice interviewing, practice some more, and practice again. Regardless of your past role, your current position, be prepared to respond to why you left your last position as well. Times are changing, and a lot of folks are working remotely now. So even the way they hire and interview is totally different. So I know a few of my mentors, Kevin, as well, he would always say, go out and just interview. And I would always think, well, why would I interview if I'm not actively seeking a role? But you need to do that to understand the interviewing process as they stand today. Because what I understand is that sometimes these employers are having you record your responses, and you have a certain amount of time to respond to a question. And they're listening to how you answer the question. They're watching your body language, and they're using these videos to determine whether or not you're going to move on to the next round or not. But that's different. So you have to understand what's happening right now in the industry, as far as the interview process is concerned. So have mock interviews, practice, practice, practice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Kevin, we have a few more comments. What if you have a variety of skills and experience in different professions, but not sure what career opportunity to pursue?
Well, that's interesting. And again, that kind of gets to really what lights your fire, right? Where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you see yourself in the next 3, 4, 5 years? And then you make a decision based on that. And it's always my view to be as diverse as possible. So you may have different opportunities that might come your way based on your skill level. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. You take the one that's best for you. But again, I always try to look at it from a future standpoint and say, okay, where do I really see myself in 5 years? And what skill do I consider myself to be most valuable? Where do I really want to be? And then take that and run with it. There's a lot of people that have a lot of different skills, but it's truly where their passion is. Look at that and just follow that. Again, I'd look at it and say, yeah, it's good to be diverse because that allows many more doors open for you. But again, I think you want to really look at it and say, what gets me out of bed every morning, right? What do I really want to do with my time? And where do I really enjoy spending my time?
Yeah.
And if it's one skill over the other, that's the one I would choose.
Yeah. And Peggy, you are so creative and you're so organized. And like you said, you have a lot of different skills. So again, understanding your value, right? So that puts you actually in a better position, because there may be some roles that you may not think that you're qualified for, but you can pull out all of those transferable skills, that you have, to find whatever you are truly passionate about. But you are very great with, organizing things, and you're very creative in marketing, things of that nature. So tap into some of that potential as well. Think about the things that you do even at church that someone would love to have in their organization. So a lot of value, ma'am. We see how celebrities have lost jobs because of social media platforms. That's right, Wendy, they sure have. They sure have. What's a professionally clever way to avoid saying you were terminated by your previous employer? Oh, that's a great question.
They had a reduction in staff, right?
A reduction in staff. Yes.
Yeah, had nothing to do with me whatsoever. The organization decided to go in a different direction, and they eliminated my position.
Yep. And we actually interviewed, Wendy, a lot of folks who have said that, and we have accepted that response.
Now you need to make sure it's true, though, right? So
yeah,
that's the only thing.
You weren't up in there, still, and they didn't terminate you for,
right, for cause.
For cause.
Right.
Rosalind said, great information that you are sharing tonight. Thank you, Minister Ross. Dr. Jackie said, on social media platforms, be mindful of what you state as well as the pictures you show of the environment you're in. Yes, ma'am. The people you are associating with, etc. Yeah. Who are you connected to? And what are you really connected with? That is so important. Thank you. Thanks, Peggy. Thank you. It's a great question, Wendy. Yep, stay positive. All right, Dawn. She said, stay positive and be kind. All right. So give yourself time to grieve. Research available benefits. Create a plan in finding a new position. Find out what you're worth. Understand your value. Mock interviews. Practice, practice, practice. And then what we're going to do, we're going to stay encouraged. Because the interview process may take longer than what we anticipated, right? And then there may be other opportunities out there for you. I'm going to let Kevin jump in here again because I don't want to steal his thunder, but he was just talking about there are other opportunities that may be available to you. So stay encouraged. So Kevin?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that may come your way, and I have to kind of harken back to when I lost my job early on in my career. I was in retail. And I didn't like retail. I hated it. And the people there knew I hated it. And so they basically said, this is not the right place for you. But unfortunately, I didn't really have a plan as far as what I was going to do next. But I figured it out. I sat down and I kind of went through some things in terms of what my skill levels were, where my passion was, what I really wanted to do with my life. And then I wound up getting another position. And when I got to that point, in my career, I basically said it doesn't matter what these people want me to do. This is where I'm going to be, and I'm going to be successful at it. And there's sort of like a stair step. I initially got that new position, and then I built on that as I went through my career. But yeah, initially it was very difficult because I felt like, well, you know what? I've gone to college. I've done all the things that I necessarily wanted to do at that point, and I lost my job. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not. My self-worth was gone. But I had to kind of refocus. And then upon refocusing, that allowed me to think a little bit more and to strategize a little bit more and to put together a plan. That's what I hadn't done before, was put together a plan. Once I put that plan together, there was no stopping me at that point. But yeah, I had to stay encouraged. I had to think, and I had to refocus and plan.
Yeah, because other doors are going to open for you. Other doors are going to open for you.
Right.
Bigger doors are going to open for you.
Mhm.
Kathy Mormon Sykes, thank you so much, first of all, for joining and this comment. This comment, I want to run around the table, Kathy.
Mhm.
Make yourself marketable. Be willing to learn something different. The reason why this makes me so excited, even for those who may not have lost a job, you have to make yourself marketable. I say this all the time. I have leaders who have come to me and they have said, hey, I'm thinking about applying, for this particular role, but it's not necessarily a promotion, what do you think? And here's what I say to that question. Okay, where do you ultimately want to be, right? So you may take a role. Sometimes you might have to step back. Sometimes it may be a role that's equal to the one that you're in, currently, but you're making yourself marketable. So ultimately, if you want to become a senior leader, now you're well-rounded, right? Because you were a leader in X department, and then you were a leader in Y department. So if they need a senior leader, you have just made yourself marketable. Also, don't be afraid to ask your leaders for special projects. So one thing that I've always done, because I'm not interested in moving up in my company. Now, if God says, it's time to do it, that so be it. But that's not a desire of my heart. But in order for me to continue to make myself marketable, what I do is I ask for projects. I ask to lead additional teams. So at one point, my manager said, okay, well, do you want case management or do you want SIU claims? I said, I want both. So stretch yourself, even in your current role, so that's how you make yourself marketable. So I really appreciate this comment, Kathy, as you can tell. So Peggy said she will unfriend people quick. They say something inappropriate. I will too. Mm-hmm. Peggy, I don't have a problem with that. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. Also, if you send me a friend request and I look on your page and see some foolishness, no, thank you. Great information being shared. Cassandra is actually going to be our guest in a couple of weeks. She's going to share her testimony on her job loss. And I don't want to get ahead of it, but you don't want to miss out in 2 weeks because she's going to share how bigger doors were opened for her. And then Peggy says, yes, Kathy, good point. It was a great point. It was a great point. So we're going to stay encouraged, right? Because other doors will open for you. You may not see it now, but it will happen at the right time. So our last point, guys, is make sure that you lean on others. Don't be afraid to ask for support. If it's from your family, if it's from friends, maybe somebody proofreading your job application, materials, somebody looking over your salary requirements, somebody doing a mock interview with you. Kevin and I, we have done that. We have done these things for individuals. I do it all the time. I don't mind doing it. They may need to babysit for you or help you with meals, during this time. And if you feel stuck in your grief, we are here, to help you with that as well. You can contact us. So we can walk you through, that grief process. So make sure that you lean in on others. I thought I saw another question that I may have missed. Let me make sure we didn't skip anybody. Okay. Kevin or Lena, how can you stay encouraged if you love the job and they let you go because of cutbacks and you see they kept someone who should have been let go? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Whenever you work for somebody, you don't control what's going to happen, right? You can't control who they decide to keep and if they decide to let you go. The thing is, I think that you have to, again, understand your worth. Your self-worth is exactly what Lena said earlier, and understand your value. A lot of times you might work for someone who doesn't clearly understand your value. The organization may be going in a whole different direction and you have no idea why, because you're not a decision maker. But the important point is to understand your value. And if you really love that job, if you really love what you're doing, there'll be another door that's going to open for you. There'll be
Yeah.
another organization that you can work for that does that same thing.
Yeah.
So, you can never control the people that you work with and work for. And again, you don't know what's really motivating them and motivating their decision making. So don't take it personal. Do not take it personal. And again, always understand your worth.
Right. No, and that's a great point, because I have worked for organizations where, Tanya, even as a leader, we didn't have say in who was cut. So sometimes you may think that your manager or your supervisor had, their hand in it, but sometimes that's not the situation. Sometimes they just cut certain positions, certain roles out of a company. So you have to understand that, right? So understanding your value, knowing that there are other companies that can use your skill sets. And we have even shared this with someone at one point. They didn't have a particular role where I work. And this person was great at diversity and inclusion. And I don't want to name drop, but they are doing great things right now. But Kevin and I, we sat down, we mentored this individual, and we told her, go create your own position. If they don't have it at the company, you create the role that you want and you go find it. Right. And we help this person with contacts. They're doing great. They have their own company now. It's huge, doing well. So sometimes it's even creating your own opportunity. So I also wanted to say that. Wendy says she wants to be a trophy wife. Yes, most definitely. Yes, we need that support from others to be encouraged and stay in prayer. Just as Minister Lena said, yeah, you have to know your worth. Absolutely. Yes. Know that your peace is valuable. Yeah, Dr. Jackie, it definitely is. That peace and that peace that passes all understanding, I'm telling you, is real. And sometimes you just need that push out the door.
Right.
You will look back and you thank that employer, when you are in a better place, mentally, physically, spiritually. So, yes. All right. So, I hope that this was helpful tonight, guys. I can't believe it's been 2 years since we've been coming out here trying to inspire all of you and just encourage you, through this time. We just want you to know that we had just gotten requests to do a segment on job loss. So we hear you. And so we want to come out here and give you some quick tips. We hope that they were helpful. So make sure that you give yourself time to research available benefits, create a plan in finding a new position. Make sure you understand your worth, guys, and find out what you are worth. Payscale.com to help you negotiate your salary. You want to do mock interviews. We want you to stay encouraged, and we want you to lean in on others. Peggy said this segment has been so encouraging. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Dr. Jackie. Thank you for sharing as well. We appreciate you and your support. Thank you so much. Thank you all. So we want you to have a peaceful night's rest. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a special guest to share their personal testimony on this same exact topic. So we hope that you will join us again. Thank you, Cassandra. We love you. Peaceful rest. Don't forget, share, like this video with others who you think would benefit from it. Peaceful rest, everybody. Good night, and we love you. Thank you.
Thank you.